we had vegetables growing in our yard, and we had as much food as we wanted to have all the time. And when we didn't have food, we were the movingest people you had ever seen. We could live in a little town 6 months, and in the country another 6 months. And we grew up back and forth just like that. But that's how my father taught us to survive. He taught my mother to farm. My mother came from Florida. She didn't know anything about farming and nothing like that. But anyway, we grew enough vegetables on this farm to feed the whole town. We gave some away, and in the stores that we had, we gave food away. It's people right now that owe us money. In fact, my mother had a big company, IOU. My uncle, one was a funeral homeowner, one was the insurance man that owned the funeral home, and one was a mechanic, and one worked for a Standard Oil company. So we thought that we had a plenty, and which we did have a plenty. My grandfather had planted all sorts of nut trees and fruit trees on the farm, so we were really never hungry. We raised camels and just horses and things like everybody else. We had a little cotton, but mostly corn and peanuts that we raised, and we were sort of profitable at that. So, and our schools were segregated. There was one white school. One white school and four black schools. One black school was run by the Baptists, one was run by the Methodists. Go back Cannon was the Baptist school. And there was a city owned one of the schools which went to the 9th grade, and there was another school that went to the 6th grade. So there was like the Methodist here was the Methodist school was on Methodist Hill, the Baptist school was on Baptist Hill. My grandfather, one more thing I have to say. My grandfather was very instrumental in this town. He owned stock in the Dan River company. He was advisors on the city board, and to this day we own stock in the Dan River fabric company, somewhere in Virginia. Okay. Let me just say. We have a youth presentation to do with some rap thing that myself, and Mr. Harvey Kingston is going to do to show you how the youth made money back in my day. The next person on depression is Mrs. Myrtle Talley. Good morning. My name is Myrtle Talley, and I was born March 18, 1920. My father's name was Frank Manifield. My mother's name was Leslie Berry Manifield. There were 5 children in this family, 4 girls and 1 boy. I was next to the oldest one. This is my story about depression. At the age of 9, at the age of 9, my father worked as an automobile mechanic. We lived in a 3-room house and washed the AC. We had at our house no light. We had a kerosene. Some of y'all don't know what that is. Kerosene heat. That meant that you saw by night. It had a camera. But during the Depression time, there were bread lines, soup lines. All of that was free to you. Anyone who wanted to go
I remember when potatoes were 15 cents for 3 pounds of potatoes. Greens was 3 pounds for 10 cents. Bread was 5 cents a loaf. And there was times when we came to buy shoes and clothes for the kids. Mind you, I was next to the oldest girl. And my father would walk up and down 7th Street to find a pair of shoes for $1. He would go up one side and down the other to buy those shoes. That's why I have bad feet today. Nevertheless, thank God for doctors. Because I finally got it straightened out. That's my story.
Okay, we'll finish off the question by Mrs. Virginia Knight.
Oh, Ma.
Good afternoon. My name is Virginia Wright, and I'm from Lake Preious, Louisiana.
Oh, no.
What it
Louisiana.
was tough. When I was about 12 years old, during the Depression time, in Lake Preious, Louisiana, I remember having to work in the field, picking cotton, chopping cotton, and other things. My father had to work, and when we gathered the crop, he would go and sell it to the white man. I went to school and a house. It was for one room, one teacher, outdoor closet, everything you learned, you had to learn it in that one room. We raised corn, tomatoes, butter beans, peas, and meat, and raised cows, chickens, and hogs. My mother had took chickens and made a house, put them in, and clean them out, and that's why we had food there. But thank be to God, we did go to church. One black sister family said one pair of shoes. When I come home, we had to get out them shoes, do our chores. We had to do our chores when we come from school. But thank be to God, we did it, and we went to church, and we had a wonderful time.
Then we're going to get into a ham bone presentation. How many young people here today know about the ham bone? Ham bone, bread and rice, round the corner, shooting down. Come a lady with a bald head face. She shot 5 and I shot 10. Come on, baby, let's do it again. Ham bone, ham bone, ham bone.
Ham bone, where you been? Round the corner and back again. Ham bone, have you heard? Papa's gonna buy me a mockingbird. If that mockingbird don't sing, Papa's gonna buy me a diamond ring. If that diamond ring don't shine, Papa's gonna buy me fishes. Ham bone, where you been? Around the world and back again.
February 27th, 1936. Tomorrow is my birthday. Neighborhood on 22nd Street in South Arlington. At night, due to the darkness, a person was identified by their footsteps. We
never felt the need to lock our doors as this was common in the neighborhood. As a child, on the weekends, there would be movies and rides on rental bicycles that cost 25 cents an hour. The family would ride down the street and through the town just to watch people on Sundays. There were no ironing clothes because it was the 70s. There were no indoor plumbing. There were wells on the property and outhouses in the backyard. Once a week, a man would come to collect the pot that was dumped from the outhouse. There were ice boxes, and to keep their things cool, a person would come through the neighborhood with the ice to put in the box. There were no personal family cards until later. The Green Valley Martin Luther King Jr. Center era was the end of the bus route. It was 5 cents for a bus ride to Columbia Heights and 10 cents to ride to Rawson, Virginia. The schools were segregated. Temple School and Huffman-Walton High School were the schools where the black were educated. Many of the clothes worn at that time came from rummage sales. Macedonia Baptist Church. Macedonia Baptist Church was the place to get clothing through the rummage sale. Due to the lack of running water, most people bathed once a week in a tub, tin tub. The same tub was used to wash clothes. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Cole. Our next person is Mrs. Mary Cox. I will never
You can stay right there.
I was born in Raleigh, North Carolina, the third of 3 children. My sister was a middle child. My sister, who was a middle child, died in childbirth. My father died when I was 22 months old. Though I have no recollection of him, my mother told me I would not have a picture taken without his picture in my hand. This went on for about 2 years. My brother was the oldest child. I lived on the main street in Raleigh, North Carolina, and went to school, including college and church, all within 3 blocks of my home. I grew up in strict segregation, back street riding on public transportation. As a child, I played hopscotch, hide and go seek, and other youngster games. My mother saw to it that my brother and I attended Sunday school, church, Christian Endeavor, and other religious gatherings. She never let us forget to put God first in our lives. God has really led my life. He has helped me raise my 3 children and seen my family through serious illnesses. My mother died when I was 17 years old during the Depression. Fortunately, my brother and I were able to finish college, even though it was in the Depression period. I will never forget the day Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. The riots that followed can never be forgotten. When World War II started, I was teaching school in North Carolina. I married during the war and moved to Washington, D.C. I moved to Virginia over 50 years ago.
I would advise the young people to put God first in all of their endeavors. Stop listening to rabble-rousers. Do not do things to please your friends when you know it is not pleasing to God.
Our next person will be Mrs. Marie G.
My name is Marie G, and I grew up on Kemper Road in the Dunbar home. I remember being part of a hard-working, close-knit family. I'm the oldest of three. Both of my parents worked outside the home. Since my dad drove a cab during his spare time, using our only car, most of my activities were centered around home, Drew School, and Lomax Church. The Dunbar homes were a modest, well-kept project sitting on a hill in South Arlington. The grass was manicured, flowers lined the walkways, and signals of personal pride were evident with attractive hanging flowers, painted rocks, and varied styles of fancy gates. 2 children or more lived in each home. It was common to have a grandmother and an aunt living in the same complex. Our transportation needs were provided by the AB&W Bus Company. The red and gray colors of that company could be seen carrying local residents to our 2 major shopping districts, which were Hex in Parkington or Cairns in Virginia Square. Shirlington was within walking distance of my home. Turner Motor Ford and Ford products were sold there for years. They provided jobs for many black men. There was also Shirlington Cleaners, Aristo Cleaners, Drug Fair, drugstore, a grocery store, and Jealous clothing store for the more affluent. Landsberg, where I shopped, was for the modest shopper. The community sing was held at Christmas, and it was a very beautiful event. The event was organized by the Tuberculosis Association, and there were representatives there from the black churches and the high school. And this was a highlight of the Christmas season. Green Valley was a very positive place to live, and I'm glad to be a product of Green Valley.
Thank you so much. Our next person is Mrs. Hargrove. Didn't get a chance to get her information in before we did the program. So we're going to ask Mrs. Hargrove if she wants to come forward now and just give us a short childhood memories. And the reason why I said that is Mrs. Hargrove can go on and on and on. She is a very interesting lady. She really is. She's also in her 90s. So, you know, she has a whole heap to talk about.
One little school, and all of us that go to that school. So we made everything but
sugar and coffee. And we had all the cows and everything on the farm. It was 38 o'clock, and I'm glad to be here. And thank y'all, thank you so much for that come up here.
My subject is childhood memories. But while I was looking through some papers, I found this article about one of my nieces out in Tacoma, Washington. She is a branch community relations liaison leader in Lakewood, Washington. I was born and raised in Bluefield, West Virginia. I attended the public schools there, except for 2 years that I attended F.A. Toya private school. The first day of school, I got a Winston reader, book 1. The first story was The Little Red Hen. My mother had taught me to read. There was a series of these readers. They later changed to the Elson readers. The school had 4 rooms, a principal and 3 teachers. Miss Coleman was my first teacher, and then Miss Adams. Miss Wright was next. I especially remember her writing classes. Push pull, roll around. Then I transferred to the private school where I graduated from the 6th grade. Then to Genoa Junior Senior High School, the school for blacks across town from where I lived. At that time, I did not mind the walk. It was a routine thing. After graduating from Genoa, I attended and graduated from Bluefield State College. We lived above the campus. While I was growing up, I attended many activities on the campus, concerts, plays, games, and so forth. It was a teacher's college. Many teachers would attend summer school there, and some of their children were my playmates. It was first called Bluefield College Institute, BCI. Later, Bluefield State Teachers College, then Bluefield State College, which is still Bluefield State College. I used to wonder as a child why teachers would go to school during the summer. One of my aunts would come out. She took me to the movies about once a week. So what? I always enjoyed playing with dolls until I outgrew them. I made clothes for them. At school with them along with paper dolls. Paper dolls were homemade cuts from catalogs. My friends and I would play cooking with cooking utensils. I liked to help my mother cook. We played checkers, lotto, sometimes lotto is something like bingo, and later Chinese checkers. I had U.S. math puzzle. That was my favorite, and I worked it over and over. I took piano lessons, and we had recitals. Toys are now largely electronic and more wheel toys. When I was a child, only a few large boys rode bicycles. I owned a tricycle one time.
Thank you so much. Next participant.
Good morning. My name is Preious, and this is the voice of the Spirit.
Get the microphone.
Very poor and lived on the farm. We worked hard. We did not have running water. We had no drawing. We had to go water from a well. We had no electric light. We had no electric light. We had to use oil lamps to cook. And wood stoves, no gas. Walked to school. First one got to school. Got to schoolhouse with making fire. At the wood stove. Walked in the rain, snow to school. There were no buses,
when we would go to town on Saturday, everybody was on the wagon pulled by 2 mules. We would go to church on Sunday. We walk. We walk on old shoes. When you got near the church, you would take a wet rag and wipe your feet before they stop in the shoes. When the girls were pushing, only on Sunday. Now, if the boys were not ready to leave, your mom or your dad would call out, "Son, it's bedtime." You would have to leave there. When the boys came to see the girls, they would have to dress up. If the boys did not have on a jacket, the girls' father would give him a jacket while he was there. The girls wore their dresses below their knees. No fine high skirts, no tight skirts, no navel showing, no breast showing. Take the girl out, have her at home by 11 o'clock. Not before then with some Kool-Aid drink, no strong drink. When a couple got married, they would always throw rice. When I got married the first time, they threw money. 5, 10 cents, 25 cents. For the honeymoon, they would ride down the road for about a mile and come back. And that was people have changed. They do everything different. When the couple would get married, the groom would take his bride to the mother's house. Later they would get their own place for their own. When they would go to church, the man would sit on this one side and the woman on the other. And the man would come over and give his wife 10 or 15 cents to put on the table. That's my story.
Mrs. Doris Payton ever arrived? No, Mrs. Payton. Okay. No, that Mrs. Elise Peterkins, is she here? And then Mr. Shelton Rowe.
My place of birth is Great Falls, South Carolina. Great Falls is a very small town located 50 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina, and 40 miles north of Columbia, South Carolina. Great Falls being the same as most small rural towns in the South, it was rare that people of limited means went to a doctor for childhood illnesses. In fact, I was a young adult before I saw a doctor for medical attention. My grandmother was the doctor, the nurse, the caregiver for me and my siblings for childhood illnesses. When the illness came about, you could bet that my grandmother had a home remedy for these, were probably handed down from our African ancestors. For example, whooping cough was treated with turtle blood on sugar. Also, the use of, that's right, turtle blood on sugar was given for whooping cough. Kerosene on sugar was used. Also, liniment on sugar was used. The application of a slice of onion on the bottom of your feet and under your armpit was used to lower your fever. Soot from the fireplace was used to stop the bleeding from the cut. And spider webs was used to hold the cuts together. There were numerous other remedies for such things as nosebleeds, constipation, those stinky asbestos bags that maybe some of you seniors may remember. And of course there was pork salad and spring onions, which was used for a spring tonic. You always got that in the spring, and that was supposed to clean your body out. Although my generation did have some benefits of modern day medicines. The county nurse would come to the school to administer immunization shots for such diseases as diphtheria, measles, smallpox, and tetanus. As I look back, I can remember the times when we had to take some awful tasting medicines such as castor oil, cod liver oil, and of course 3 6s to ward off illnesses. I'm happy to be living in a time when medicine tastes much better and are packaged more attractively. These are some of the old remedies, and I believe they are just as effective as some of our medicines that we have today.
And we'll have Mr. Milton Rowe. After Mr. Rowe, we'll have Mrs. Francis Sellers. And all of these are childhood memories.
Back in the year of 1935, I was 10 years old, and nothing much on my mind but play. And the North area where I live had no organized recreation for youngsters my age. We kids watched the baseball games at the ballpark, which was located along 4 Mile Run, and at that time it was paved road. Teams came from Washington, D.C., Maryland, Cleveland to play with them, to compete with each other. We had also the baseball teams would come and compete against the Black Sox, which was the Arlington baseball team. These boys ranged from 18 to 20, sometime the years of age. I'm sorry, right. These boys range from 18 to 20, sometimes years of age. They also had motorcycle competition at the ballpark. There was a dance hall next to the ball field called the that was owned by Preious. During the summer, the gypsies came through the valley and set up temporary quarters on the ball field on the way north and south. Just about every youngster had a sled during that time. And when it snowed, we found the ideal streets to sleigh ride on. And that was 22nd Street Hill. At 22nd Street Hill, we make a bonfire and have quite a bit of heat there. We used to love to have the girls to sleigh ride. We would let them jump on the sled first, and then we jump on top. We also used to go to Alternative Country Club and sleigh ride over there. On Saturdays, we used to go and play football on the driving range up at Alternative Country Club. And there was no objection to us playing there because we wanted to play for a short time. Then after the game was over, we would go to the clubhouse and caddy. And for 18 holes, we got paid 35 cents. Young adults, we made 50 cents. or 18 months of Carolina. And on Mondays, the caddies had the privilege of playing all over the golf course. No restriction. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Stella. I was born February 13, 1933 in Palmetto, Georgia, which is about 29 miles from Atlanta. And I was raised in Arlington, Virginia. I had two brothers older than I, and one is deceased. When I was growing up as a child, I thought I had the sweetest mother there was. At the age of 8, she started teaching me how to cook, clean, wash, and iron. By the time I became a teenager, I knew how to do all of those things very well, and they became my job. I even began to buy the groceries. There were times when the other kids were going on field trips or watching games or other school activities. I wanted to participate, but couldn't because I had chores to do. I was very sad about that. My mother and father made sure that I went to Sunday school and church, and I could participate in those activities. They were very religious people. I was brought up in a religious home. As I grew older, I learned to appreciate the things that my mother taught me, but still felt that I was cheated out of some of my teenage years and things that other kids enjoyed. But I thank God for all that He has done for me. He has been by my side and brought me from a mighty long way.
Of course, you know, my name is Stella, and I was born in a family of 11. 7 girls, 4 boys, 4 fellas. And I am a descendant of a Wanzer family in seminary in Alexandria, Virginia. And at that time, the Wanzer family owned most of the land in the seminary, where you see the Lexus Theater and the T.C. Williams High School and all those places. They had different names. They called Woodtown, all these kinds of things. But I'm not going into a whole lot because as far as, you know, all the things, everyday things, like I know that's all about, everybody had that. But anyway, one of the main things that stayed out in my mind was the fact that we got up 4 o'clock in the morning to watch Joe Lewis train. And that his training was done where Fairlington is now. That was a big airplane field where everybody would go on Sunday. If they have quarter, they would have a little airplane ride, go up and come down. But those are the things that are most outstanding in my mind. Of course, my grandmother, we all had to go to Sunday school. And when we got out of Sunday school, she would be standing there waiting for us for candy and all those kinds of good things. But other than that, during the Depression and all those kinds of times, we didn't know how poor we were. But thank God, because we raised chickens, hogs, and all those kinds of things. But all in all, I thank God for every day that I have come up to where I am now. So I know hard times can be good times because they teach you how to handle yourself when you grow up. And to all children, if you think you are having a hard time now, say a blessing, say thank you, Lord, because when you grow up, you will be worse off. And I thank God for my parents. They were hard, and they were sick, but I thank God for them every day, because I know I would not be where I am now if they had not taught me and made me do things that I didn't want to do as a teenager. And I thank you so much for your time.
First of all, I want to say that I'm honored to be on the same program with such seasoned seniors and also who has such rich history. Yes, I am a senior citizen and I am very proud to be. I was born in the Preious Valley of Lorraine, Virginia on August the 28th, 1943, to the late Deacon William Nokomis and Myra Evelyn Carter. I was the 4th of 10 children, 6 sisters, and 3 brothers. All 10 of us were blessed to have celebrated our 50th plus birthday. I lost my sister Marie in 2002. I grew up in a religious home. We all had to attend church as a family. My parents instilled into us the importance of putting God first in our lives. My dad wore many hats in the church. If you mentioned Bethel Baptist Church in Luray, immediately you would think of Deacon Bill Carter. He was very proud to serve the Lord, and he did faithfully for 94 years. My mom passed away at age 39. She served on the usher board, and each Sunday she would make special dinners, as we always had to feed the preacher. Our home was lively. We would sing, pray, and recite Bible verses. Church and serving God was always and still is a special part of my life. After my mom passed away, I was 18 at the time. I became mother to my twin sisters at age 10. As a mother and a grandmother now, I try to instill into my family the blessings of knowing the Lord for themselves. I moved to Washington, and in 1960, I attended Cadoza High School, which was predominantly black. We had no problems. Many of the students had experienced segregation. I had the opportunity to meet Malcolm X up close and personal while working at the Hot Shop, a favorite eating place in the Washington area. Malcolm X and his followers would come in each Monday night after the meeting for ice cream. Malcolm would always request my section and ask me to bring him the integrated ice cream, which was chocolate chip. On several occasions, I have been told that I resemble Tina Turner. I had an opportunity to meet Tina when she and I were together, and both of them thought that I looked like her too. So if anyone knows of anybody who needs a Tina Turner lookalike, here I am. On my 20th birthday, which was August the 28th, 1963, I am proud to say that I was among the many marchers that marched on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King when he gave his great speech, I Had a Dream. That was a most memorable moment in my life. Other moments that I remember was the assassination of President Kennedy, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King, and the explosion of the Challenger, which took a great impact on my life, and that was a time when the world seemed to have stopped for me. I'll pay attention. And another thing I want to add on too is the fact that I have been a member at Lomax for like 35 years, been very active, and the Lord has blessed me in so many ways. And I just want to thank everybody here at the church who has been both family and friends to me and my family. Thank you.
This is Gloria Taylor.
Hello, I'm Elise Jackson Blake. I was born in Poughkeepsie, New York, the third of 5 daughters to David and William Jackson. I graduated college with a nursing degree. I have 2 children and 5 grandchildren. Some of my childhood years I won't forget. I can remember coming home for lunch and having my mother there to fix lunch for us, and we walked back to school. We walked back and forth to school. I really enjoyed that. It was just so good to have my mother there at home when we came home for lunch. And when it was time to go to school, my mother took us to buy clothes, and we always got 3 dresses and 2 pairs of shoes. 1 pair for Sunday and 1 pair for church. And the dresses that we got, we had worn to school, we came home and changed them, and wore them again the next day. Then we got to find another dress the following day. I didn't get an allowance. I had chores to do, and anything that I wanted, would just ask my parents for it, and if they thought we needed it, then they would give it to us. But at that time, a 12-ounce bottle of soda or a loaf of bread was 10 cents. Ice pops or a candy bar was 5 cents, and they were much larger than they are now. And you can get 3 pieces of candy for a penny. Milk was delivered to your home, and if you got the milk, you had cream on top of that that you used for whipped cream. And if you wanted extra milk, what you had to do was leave a note for the milkman, and he would bring the milk and leave the money out there, and they'd pick it up, and it was delivered right to your door. And at that time, we could leave our doors unlocked. We didn't have any problems with like coming now. When I was in high school, I would attend these dances at the Culture Community Center. And unlike most of the kids in high school, my curfew was at 11 o'clock. And believe you me, at 11 o'clock, I was looking for my father because he came to pick me up. And if I was in that lobby, he would come inside that center. And I didn't want that. Because he would come into the dance where we had a dance. Okay? And if he saw a boy in there that had a hat on, he would say, take that hat off, boy. He had a dance with a girl, take that hat off, boy, he would say. Or he had a cigarette in his mouth and was dancing with a girl, take that cigarette out, put that cigarette out. And the girls, the boys at that time were taught to respect the girls. Okay, none of this, whatever you go on. We didn't have any design clothes, things like that. And whenever I go out to an activity, my mother and father always tell me that the dance or whatever activity I was attending, remember it's inside, not outside. We're not allowed to stay outside. It's as far as somewhere chocolate. Amen. Very much. Next we're going to have World War II. Mr. Hardy.
Hello again. These are memories of the first 10 years of my life. I don't want you to think I'm too old, but I will be 72 tomorrow, the 27th of February. My name is Harvey, and I was born in Hopewell, Virginia, February 27th of 1933. At the age of 3 months, my mother and I moved to Washington, D.C., where we reunited with my father, who had gone there before I was born to seek employment. We lived in a number of different places along 14th Street, between P and U Streets, in the northwest section of the city. When I was 6, we moved to 1511 Church Street, Northwest, where my parents rented 2 upstairs bedrooms and shared use of the kitchen from our landlord, Miss Lena. I come to think of it, I never did know Miss Lena's last name. Church Street is a 4-block long corridor that runs between 14th and 18th Streets Northwest, and is so named because there is a church on every corner. Later that year, I was enrolled in Sumner Magruder Elementary School, located 17th and M Streets Northwest, where things went well for the next 2 years. However, on December 7th, 1941, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, ushering in the beginning of World War II. This war lasted for almost 5 years, officially ending in 1946. Even though I was young, I realized that the Japanese attack meant trouble. I knew because I had often heard my father and some of his friends discuss the mood of their fathers or other men who had served in World War I, which began in June of 1914 and ended in November 1918. These men were disillusioned and bitter about the results of World War I. Many had fought bravely for America in World War I, only to return home to find that the democracy that they had defended did not exist for him or his family in this country. So to say the least, my father was less than thrilled about the situation and did not even want to think or discuss having to serve in the Army. For a while, his wish was granted because of the reluctance of white America to accept blacks, or Negroes, as we were called in those days, into the armed services. He escaped being drafted until March 1943. The arrogance of white America was so great in those days that many thought that America would make short strike of the Japanese. Needless to say, this did not happen, and America found itself having to draft men as old as 50 years of age into the service. The day after my father left for induction into the Army, my mother called me into the bedroom and told me that things were tough and was going to get even tougher with my father gone. She said I would have to do without some of the things I was used to having. This did not bother me because I had been asking about being in the paper for it, but had been thwarted in my efforts because my parents felt I was too young for such responsibility. I immediately sought out the Washington Daily News Dispatch who worked out of the building at 17th and P Street Northwest. To my surprise, I was hired and given a room that included some large apartment buildings, hotels, and the Blair House in the downtown of D.C. My job did not include collecting money, preparing paperwork, or anything of that nature. All I had to do was to turn the papers from Monday through Saturday. This was done at the end of my school day. The Daily News did not publish its Sunday edition. The number of papers I delivered was somewhere between 90 and 110. For this, I was paid the sum of $5 a week, of which I gave my mother $2. I could do what I wanted to do with the balance. One of the greatest experiences I had as a child was having my own savings account. With my mother's help, I opened an account at the Industrial Bank of Washington, located in Nelson U Street Northwest. It was the only black bank in D.C. at that time, and it still in business today. I deposited $1 a week and had $2 to spend. So that's the story of how I got my first job. I must say that it brought me responsibility at a young age and set the standard that I'll follow for the rest of my working career. Thank you.
Credit couldn't make it. And I just wanted to let you know that Mr. McVeigh is on the World War II Memorial Register. And if you have computer, you go on to www.imemorial.com and click on the register and put in his name. You'll see on the computer. And also put in my name. You'll see if I get you.
Thank you. God has changed my life. Mrs. Maureen Adams.
Good morning. My name is Maureen Adams. I was born on December 12th, 1949, to Hayes Franklin Adams and Geneva Lee Adams. I had one sister, and her name was Madeline Lee. Of course, all my family went on and resting in the Lord's arms right now. I was educated first in the all-black Catholic school of St. Joseph in Alexandria, Virginia. I learned two religions, the Baptist religion on Sunday and the Catholic religion on Monday through Friday. Later in life, I chose the Catholic religion. Presently, I'm a member of Our Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Church in Arlington, Virginia. Oh, how has God shown himself to me? You always hear the words, the Lord has brought me a mighty long way. How very true. I can truly say that he hasn't worked any high-class miracles such as becoming a millionaire or becoming Secretary of State, but just life in general is how he has shown his love, power, and support to me. He has given me some hard tasks to do. Some of those tasks I did try to run from, but he stepped in my way and said, go back. You know your job is not done, nor is it over. I will let you know when you can be excused. The greatest showing for me is through people. When I go to visit my Aunt Koya Johnson and Mrs. Florence Burrell and others in the nursing facility, I see him there. I see him through the people. The person who is comical, but also sick. The person who is forgetful, Somehow he has a way of communicating to me through them. The person who is in bed when I go into the room to say hello, there is a peace in them. By this I mean a very peaceful feeling. Even though the person may not respond with their mouth, but their eyes talk and speak to me in peace. I get a revealing of God's presence. You know, I had to ask God to show me and tell me how he has shown himself to me. I said, Father, I only need to know one way, but of course he gave me more than one. He said your nursing home visits is where you get a lot of peace in your heart. Another place, which is odd, he put before me is the cemetery. And when I go to visit my loved ones and friends of the family, I feel his presence, especially when I get overrun with crying. I feel his presence strongly. He is holding me and comforting me there. I said, oh, thank you, Jesus. So I say to you, there is truth in the words and feelings of the Lord has brought me a mighty long way.
Everyone will stand on their feet and we're going to sing the Road National Anthem. Start
Sing a song full of the faith that the darkness has gone. Sing a song full of the hope that the presence has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Knowing the road we trod, bitter the chasing rod, felt in the days when hope unborn. Enemies have not weary feet, come to the place for which our Father signed. We have come over the way that the tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the Psalter. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand on the way. Thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us for our feet, straight from the places, our God, where we met thee. Let our hearts drum with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shall we leave thy hands, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
I am thrilled, and I think that you all should really be proud of yourselves. I think you really got out of your comfort zone with this program, and I am just thrilled. Our senior ministry, as already has been mentioned, is going into its third year of sessions. And I just want to read you, we have put all of the statements in a book, and we're going to present each senior that participated with the book. But I just want to read you the forward statement that I wrote to the seniors. And this is my statement to you. Today we pause to celebrate ourselves. So many times during Black History Month, the emphasis is placed on those who have achieved national and/or international distinction. But there are many more people in our local churches and communities who have led low-key, meaningful, and interesting lives who for the most part go unnoticed. However, their contributions are just as, if not more important than those who have achieved prominence. The stories that the members of the Lomax Seniors Ministry have chosen to share with us represent a vivid cross-section of the life in the United States from the early 20th century to the present. They show that we have all arrived at Lomax from many different paths in some ways, but then not so different in the long run. Each in his or her own way made their own contribution to enhancing our program, and for that we, the committee, are thankful. Our prayer is that by sharing our experiences, we will not only offer new insights into ourselves to others, but also put a new slant on the observance of Black History Month. And that's from the Lomax Senior Ministry Committee. A program like this took place this morning, as well as the meal that we have every fourth Saturday. We just cannot make it without him. He just enhances our program. But what he doesn't know, in addition to acknowledging him, I understand that he has a birthday this month. I don't know exactly the date it is. The February 24th. And Stella, in honor of your birthday, we want to say happy birthday to you. We have this card and we have a cake for everybody. All right.